Tom, you're back in Adelaide, still in Lara. What are you up to at the moment?
Yeah, still in Lara. Basically the same as what I've been doing since all this started. Pretty much training, doing uni, doing some media stuff like this and some other radio things. Trying to keep in contact with everyone, team meetings, leaders meetings. We've had our cook-offs and things like that. So how long have we been back? For nearly 6 weeks now. So it's been like that for a while. But differences in training and some differences in uni.
Are you picking up your training? How's that changed sort of in the last month in terms of the knee and what you're able to do in that space?
Yeah, I've been sort of the same as everyone in that sense. We've just understood that there was going to be a little bit of a break. So the original program was relatively lessened compared to what we had been doing pre-season. And then it's slowly beginning to build up as the reality of playing becomes closer and closer.
All right. Just hope someone else to jump in.
Jack Paquetta.
Hey, Tommy. Saw the news about Marty Mattner today. What are your reactions to him not being there anymore?
Yeah, obviously devastating, mate. We I didn't get to play with him too much because of obviously did my knee round one and he coached that whole year. So I got to see a bit more of the other side of him from being in coaches meetings and things. And he's a ripping coach. He's a ripping fella. The backs love him. And unfortunately, it's just a product of the system and everything that's going on at the moment. So ideally, we'd love to keep him and everyone else that we've lost. But he's been great for me. He's taught me a few things even just to do when I was coaching the sample. And then drill-wise, relationships-wise, he was unreal. So it's a big loss for us. And it'll be very different once we get back for sure.
As a leader of the club, how do you think will this put more pressure on the leaders at the club to stand up when there are less and less assistant coaches and development coaches?
I'm not sure about pressure, but there may be a few more responsibilities. We have the utmost faith and trust in our coaching group that when it comes to it, they'll be able to step up and control that burden, but or load, if you want to put it that way. But we as a playing group are pretty confident that what we've done in the pre-season, the feeling that we've installed, the culture that everyone will be able to step up and take the reins. So it will be different, and we're shattered to lose the people we've lost. But in terms of carrying the load, I don't think it'll be too much more pressure. It might just be a bit more responsibility.
So do you think it'll be more responsibility on all the players to make sure that they're all doing the right thing?
Yeah, for sure. And this whole situation's been like that. It's been obviously being able to train one-on-one only and people being back in Melbourne or wherever they're from. It's been a bit more responsibility on your own program, a bit more like the off-season where you've got the responsibility to look after yourself throughout the whole off-season so that when you come back, you're ready to go. That's the same as this week. It was obviously an indefinite move to suspend the season. We didn't know when we'd be back, but it's been everyone else's responsibility to look after their program so that when games do come back, we can play, and that'll be the same once we return. So
how different do you think the program could look if you have significantly less assistant coaches?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I gather that'll begin to take place as we return, and especially if we go into the hubs or whether we're back at training and things like that. It'll look different. But in terms of meetings, things like that, I can't imagine it will be too different. It might just be that we might space out the individual game reviews over a couple of days because we don't have two backs coaches, or it might be that our backs meetings are once a fortnight rather than once a week. It might be something like that. But in terms of drastic changes, I can't imagine it would be too different.
Okay, thanks, mate. I'll allow someone else to have a go. Cheers.
Tom, Andrew Capel, mate, from The Advertiser. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, all good, Andrew. How you going?
Good, buddy. You yourself?
Yeah, flying.
Excellent, buddy. Hey, so I missed the first minute or two. Were you asked about the AFL quarantine hubs and your thoughts on them?
No, not yet, mate. Not yet. You want me to dive into it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Obviously, at the moment, it's been some preliminary talks and hoping that we can get a bit more confirmation as we learn more about the coronavirus and as it tracks along. But it's obviously a pretty big ask for players to be away from their family for 20 weeks, even with that gap in between. It's a big commitment. Personally, I'd be comfortable with playing if the weeks were reduced. So if we weren't maybe 8 weeks in a row, maybe it was 3 or 4 weeks. I struggle to not see my partner for that long, but being in interstate, well, I don't see my family that regularly anyways. But I put myself in the shoes of players with families or young kids and even staff members with family and kids, that it would be a pretty big ask for them to be able to stay away from their family that long if they can't be brought into the hub that we're at. So there's still a lot of talks to be done there and still a lot of movement to be made.
So your major issue, you obviously would play in a quarantine hub, but your major issue is just shortening the length of time away from family and loved ones.
Yeah, I think so. I think especially the family side of it and the mental health side of it. Again, that's a long time to be quarantined in one specific area and just playing footy. As much as the footy will be a release, you got to look at the family members that their people are the players' family members who are away from it. Then you got to look at the playing group that aren't playing and their mental health. You've got to look at the family and the staff members. So there's a lot to be done, and there's a lot of worries and concerns that if we were to play that long, the mental health ramifications for everyone involved.
Thank you, mate. Much appreciated.
Easy.
So, yeah, you got any questions, buddy?
Yes. Hello, dude.
Hey, mate. How you going?
Good, thank you. Just to follow up on that, is that not the worst case scenario though? The 8-week, 1 week, 12-week. Are we not? That's the far end of the scale, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what it seems like at the moment. As I said, that's the initial sort of plan that's been thrown out there. And ideally, it would be shifted, and we find a solution that everyone can agree on. But yeah, if that is the worst case scenario, it's a big ask.
Yeah, that's enormous. So with that in mind, worst case, is it just about dialing things back to find a level that players and coaches and clubs are happy with?
Yeah, potentially. It's it's an ongoing discussion. So there's going to be voices from the PA, from the club, from the AFL, the players. There's going to be everyone that's involved in it. It's going to have a say, and hopefully we can come to an agreement that everyone's comfortable with. But yeah, at the moment, it needs to be adjusted.
So is it fair to say it needs player approval? Is that how it's going to work? It needs to be ticked off by the Players Union before the AFL can go ahead with it?
Yeah, I would hope so. I would hope that we can agree to something that both parties are comfortable with.
And then given how quickly this thing's moved, mate, in 6 or 7 weeks when you're back training, the need for a hub might be sort of redundant anyway. Is there the hope that, in 2 months after a block of training and a couple of games, that it could just be back to home and away as per usual?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why when we first got the news, there was a bit of there was a concern I spoke about earlier about the families and mental well-being. But there's the way that it's moving, and with the borders potentially being opened up again, there's a chance that we don't even have to worry about all this. And that would be the ideal scenario for everyone involved. Would be we get back to training, get 2-3 weeks of pre-season done, and then they say, oh, we're back onto a normal season. We don't have to worry about this hub. So it would be perfect for everyone. It would ease a lot of stress, a lot of family stress, if that was the case.
Agreed. Lastly from me, big fella, in the leadership group now, you emerged in the last couple of years as a potential captain and future captain sort of thing. Do you consider what you might have to say to a player if they came to you and said they weren't comfortable if they had to go into a hub?
It's a good question. It's sort of, I would like to think they'd be comfortable coming to me to talk about that, and it'd be something that I'd think we'd approach as a group. So it'd be me and the other leaders. It'd be Nixie, Adam Kelly, and everyone else involved. But it's going to have to come down to personal decisions. So if you're not comfortable being away from your family for that long, which I'm sure most people can empathise with, then that's your personal decision, and we'll move forward with that. So I would like to think people would be comfortable coming forward, and hopefully they don't have to have that conversation and we don't have to go through the hubs. But yeah, if that comes to it, it's just a personal decision.
Fair enough, dude. Thanks, brother.
Easy, right?
Give me your name.
Any of the ABC boys want to jump on?
Yeah, I will, if that's okay. Hey, Tom, it's Neil Cross. I know it's probably been covered a bit, but I'll ask you about your knee recovery. You've had your whole pre-season and everything, and you thought you were just about ready to go. Now with this lapse or non-playing era, and then you come back again, are you confident you're going to? Have you got any concerns at all that you'll have enough time to be able to prepare yourself, and especially with no SANFL games?
Just personally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no concerns at all. I had the little hyperextension about a month before round one, and that pushed me out of round one and then moved me closer to round 2 or 3. And then this little break's giving you time to basically consolidate everything I've done, strength-wise, speed, endurance-wise, all those sort of things. So I'm pretty comfortable that once we get back, I'll be able to hopefully get in 2-3 weeks of training, get used to body and contact and things like that, and then turn that into a game. But it's just a case for me of match sim that I missed out on. The boys had the 2 Marsh games and a round 1 game or a trial game for the sample boys that I didn't get to be a part of. So for me, it's just making sure I can get back in those training sessions, get used to being around bodies again. And in terms of confidence in the knee, though, that's no question, it's ready to go.
No, it was more that factor, as you say, body contact and getting up to speed, if you like, again. So from yourself and a wider perspective, does the prospect of not having those SANFL games cause a bit of worry as well? Because obviously if you're not in the side, then you don't get a game, and whether it's you or anybody else.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you have to expect there'd be concern about that, because as much as we love each other in our playing group, you don't want to be playing against each other every week. You'd much rather be playing against another competition, whether it's sample or AFL. You'd much rather be playing against other blokes, because we spend the whole pre-season playing against one another. So there's definite concern, and we'll be able to keep up fitness and touch and things like that. But again, that game sense and that feeling of actually running out a full game, there's a difference between training fitness and game fitness, and it'd be tough to get that for the blokes that aren't playing. So hopefully it doesn't come to that, but that'll be a bridge we'll have to cross if it arises.
Tom, just Peter Lusted from ABC in Melbourne. Just when you're talking about the hubs earlier, I know we're talking about worst case scenario, but say when we're talking about players with newborns or players with seriously sick family members, is it conceivable that some wouldn't be able to go with the hubs model and would sit it out, or is that inconceivable at this stage?
Sort of touched on that before, that it would be a personal decision for players, and obviously family is incredibly important. Mental health and looking after your loved ones is the biggest aspect of life. So if you can find a way to play football in the hub and still look after your family, that would be perfect. But if there's a world where basically you're going to have to decide between football or your family, I think some blokes are just going to have to choose family and not play. So whilst it's ideal that we'd have our whole team there and everyone's team there, there's a chance that that's not going to happen.
And how would you respond to that, say if that was a teammate of yours in that scenario?
Yeah, so again, touched on that before in a sense that it was just like I would be disappointed that we wouldn't have our full list, because as I mentioned, we love the playing group has bonded really well over the pre-season. We're all looking forward to just playing games, to be honest. So to not have someone there it'd be disappointing. But if they were not there because they were looking after their family, or they've got 3 kids and they don't want to put that burden on their partner, then that would be completely understandable and would support that decision.
Thanks, Tom.
Easy, man.
Chase, you got anything, mate? Take yourself off mute, buddy.
Classic Zoom.
There we go. Hear me now?
There we go.
Good to go, buddy.
Tom, just going back and touching on Marty Mattner again, who sort of now internally fills that defensive role that he sort of was in charge of?
Yeah, so Brett Riley was the development backs coach. So from my understanding, he will step up and take that role. Had a lot to do with him last year with the Stanford coaching. So he's completely qualified. Obviously, he was a gun player. His game sense is second to none. So he's done a lot of work. He's a hard worker. He really enjoys the club. He enjoys especially backmen and working with defenders. So it'll be exciting to see what he can do in that role. As much as it is a bit of it's a shame to lose Marty. It'll be interesting to see how Rads goes.
And has anyone spoken to Marty since? How's he sort of feeling about the departure?
Yeah, so he called around basically the main backs, like the senior backs players and teammates, and Just touched on it, told us what was going on and how he felt, and he's really disappointed and would have loved to have been at the Crows for a long time, but seeing the current situation and he's got a young family, so he just had to accept that it was done and move on and look for his next gig. So yeah, again, he's devastated and we're all shattered for him, but he seems at peace with it and he's ready to move on.
Beautiful. That's all I had.
Any other questions, guys? Anyone want to revisit anything?
Could I just ask Tommy a couple of questions more?
Yeah, mate, of course.
Tommy, are you at home in Victoria now?
I am, yeah, in Lara, Geelong.
Nice. So would your preference be to go into a hub in Victoria?
Well, I suppose in a sense it's almost doesn't matter where it is, because if we are going to be separated from our family, it can be anywhere and you're not going to see them anyways. But in terms of travel, yeah, it'd be great if it was here and then I wouldn't have to go as far. But yeah, I mean, if we're going to be in there for as long as has been stated, then wherever it is, it's just going to have to be extended.
And so ideally for you, you'd go straight from where you are now, straight to the hub in Victoria and not have to come back to Adelaide, go into 14 days quarantine, then go back to the hub?
Yeah, that would be ideal. I've still got a few things in Adelaide though. I think I left my mouth guard, a couple of boots and some other things. So I'd need to get them sent over if I wasn't to go back, or maybe one of the boys can bring them over. But yeah, ideal situation for me, and a lot of the other guys that come back would just be that it happens in Victoria, but if it happens in Adelaide, then I get to go back home anyway. So it's almost a win-win if it's one of them two.
Excellent. Thanks, mate.
Dude, can I follow up on that one? Just a pretty good point there from Jack. How hard is it to mentally prepare when you don't know what you're going into? Conceivably it could be 3 weeks, it could be 0 weeks. You don't really know. How hard is the mental preparation for that?
Yeah, it is tough. I suppose it's sort of been like that since this all went down. It was originally just, all right, get back home, be with your family, because we don't know where this pandemic's going to lead to. So originally it was just, let's get back, have a support network around you if you need it, or stay in Adelaide with your family if you want that. And then now it's become the reality of training approaching. It's almost just make sure that you're doing everything possible that if games resume, whether it's 8 games in 5 weeks or back to the normal home away season, you're ready to go. And it is tough to prepare for that because there isn't a concrete path that we're going to be taking. But as long as you're keeping fitness up, you keep in touch up with having a kick, you're training with someone who can push you, then outside of that, you should be fine when it comes to it.
And your knee would be good for 4 games in 2 weeks or something?
Yeah, knee feels normal. Feels like a normal knee, so almost as if it didn't happen.
Feels like a normal knee. Good work, mate.
Is that what makes sense?
Yeah.